Hey folks, welcome back to Markelly Farm. We've got our first beautiful day in quite some time. We've been getting thunderstorms every afternoon, seems like. And we had a bad one the other night. I don't know if you saw the short where we were getting nickel-sized hail and lots of wind. And we were a little bit worried about the garden, so I thought I'd give you an update before we get going doing some other stuff. So here's the garden. It took a pretty good beating, especially the squash. Stripped it down pretty good. The tomatoes took a little beating, but I haven't seen anything out here that's just completely shredded and laying down on the ground. All the growth points on all the plants are still look like they're okay, so I think our garden is going to push through and put on some new growth. I think we will be fine. It's been growing pretty well, and this week we're forecasted to be in the 80s all week long. 70s, high 70s, low 80s. So that should tell by the end of the week. I think we're going to bounce back pretty far. The weather's so nice today that I think we're going to be able to get some color on our Farmall cub. We're going to get some primer on there today and hopefully get some red paint on there tomorrow. We've got a lot of odds and ends to clean up and paint as well. Our first parade is on the 13th of June, and right now I believe it's the 4th of June, so we got about 9 days. I know the wagon will be ready, so we can use the wagon behind the pickup if the Farmall is not ready. And I can take the Farmall out there a little stripped down as long as it's running. I mean, I don't have to have the headlights and all that stuff on it, as long as I can get the red paint back on the motor, get everything reassembled. I don't even need all the lights to be plugged in, as long as the motor will turn and run. I would need to get the hood done, get the radiator mounted, but that's not too tall of an order, so we shall see how that goes. So here's the cubby ready for paint. I just have some bare metal surfaces. I need to clean just a little bit of surface rust off. I need to mask up our sealing surface on our radiator and mask off our switches and gauges up here on the dashboard and our oil pump. I think I'm going to pull the starter off. There's only 2 bolts, and paint the starter and the generator separately because they need to be black. And I haven't decided what color I'm going to paint the air canister, the breather. If it needs to be black, we'll paint it black as well. But we can get going on this thing and get it pushed outside. Before we get too far along, we have one of our little side panel screws here that was busted off. So we need to try to get that out. I've already put heat on this, and I've already tried a pair of pliers, and I broke off a little piece that was hanging out, but I still got a little bit there. So we'll clean this up real good. I got a little 10mm nut that I'm going to spot weld on here to see if we can get that spun out of there, because we're going to need both of those holes. So what I've done, I've just taken the MIG welder and I've just spot welded the end of that screw a couple times to get real good adhesion to it, because sometimes when you put the nut over it, the wire doesn't get all the way in there and attach to the screw. And then now I got a real good nub to stick out through the screw, so it's going to connect on there a lot better, and then we'll have more to weld to. Okay, we wiggled it around a little bit. Seems to be moving. So let's see if we can get this thing all the way out. I got high hopes. Don't want to celebrate too early, but seems to be working. Woohoo! one less headache to deal with. And then before we put those side plates on, we'll come through here with a tap and we'll tap those out real good, whatever size they come out to be. There we go. Look at there. Success. Well, for those of you that are curious, we figured out those holes are 1024, and they're the same thing up top in the cowling up there. There's two more of those holes with nuts welded on the back for the top. These holes do not go all the way through. So I think when I go into town, I'm going to pick me up a 1024 bottoming tap because this is not one. And then I need a new tap handle that'll actually tighten on it. This one will turn it, but I need a smaller handle for these smaller taps. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the drawbar. All you got to do is loosen up these two bolts there. You don't even have to take them all the way out, and then that bracket just spins and you can take the drawbar off. This drawbar is made to be reversible. It goes forward to mount belly mounted equipment, or it goes back here to pull trailers or whatever. So just 4 bolts and this will be off. Okay, we got our rear drawbar off. That's going to allow us 2 things. We'll be able to paint this now because before it had jack stands underneath the final drive where we couldn't get that cleaned up and get that painted because the brackets were on there. And then also, while those brackets are off, we're going to cut a little notch to where you can check the oil in the final drive without pulling the bracket off. That's kind of a design flaw. The one on the other side is forward because these final drives can be mounted on either side. So they're kind of interchangeable. So we'll probably notch both plates in case it's ever round forward, which it never will be. But that way we can check the oil. Next thing I want to do, anywhere where these welds were terminated when we did this fix, if it's not completely flat and it's got like a little divot in it, we've got some metallic epoxy. We're going to fill all of those little places in, and if there's any little occlusion looking things here along where the weld was, we'll fill all those in as well, just to give us a little bit of insurance. We'll clean these out with wire wheel, get some mineral spirits. That way the epoxy sticks really well. Make sure there's no dirt, oil, grease, rust, anything on those. And we'll just put a little fine skim coat just to fill those divots. Well, apparently that JB weld needs 24 hours to fully cure. I don't know if that's just the paint over or not, but I'm going to err on the side of caution and just do 24 hours. So no paint on the tractor itself till tomorrow, but we did get our oil bath cup and figured out where the leak was on that. You can see these 2 little spots right here. I put some brake clean on the inside, and that's the only 2 spots where stuff seeps out. And that makes sense because that's about the level that the oil seeped out to. I checked all these spot welds, they're fine. So I'm going to get some brazing rod, and we're going to attempt to braze those 2 holes closed. We got our cup all brazed up. We brazed over both of those holes. Once that gets painted, you won't even know that's there. You could sand that if you wanted to, but really no reason to. Now we're testing this thing with some mineral spirits because it's really thin stuff. And if the thin stuff won't seep out, neither will the thick stuff. So we're going to set this on our welding table and we'll check back in an hour or two, see if there's any moisture or residue on the table. If you're wondering what I used this 332 flux coated bronze rod. Just brazing rod's what they call it. But it's nice because it's got the flux already on it. Any of your farm stores in the welding section will have this. Some of it is uncoated, so just know if you buy the uncoated rod, you're going to have to buy some flux. We went ahead and mounted the coil bracket so it's the right color red when we end up spraying it. And we did verify that the coil will now fit and clear the generator bracket. So that's going to work good. We're about even with the end of the distributor here. So that'll be perfect. We'll clean all this stuff up so it doesn't look so nasty when we put it back on. Now, even though we can't squirt any paint on the tractor today, we've got plenty of other stuff we can paint, clean up and paint. So that's what we're doing. Got this crankcase breather tube that we need to clean up. It's all dirty. I don't know if it's copper or if it's steel. Can't tell by there, but we'll clean it up and see. If it's steel, we'll probably have to paint it. Okay, with the exception of the drawbar and the coil and regulator that I just got to wipe off, I've got all these parts clean. I didn't clean the hydraulic stuff because it's not going back on. Got the radiator all scraped off, the old gasket and everything, straightened all the fins. So we're ready for paint. Let's take a look at our oil bath cup. No seepage whatsoever. So that is fixed. That's awesome. What do you think about all this, Ruby? You ready for this tractor to be done? Huh? Yeah? Once the front of our bolster cures tomorrow, we'll come through here with a little bit of sandpaper, make sure we're good and flat along this ceiling edge. And then we have to mask off some stuff. I'm going to mask off all the spark plugs. I need to mask off some gauges, the oil pressure gauge, anything that I don't want paint on. Still got a little cleaning to do over here, but I'm thinking we can get some paint on this thing tomorrow. We'll do it in this video, but it's almost supper time. Kelly's home and she's mowing the lawn, so I'm going to go in and get some supper going. We'll see you in the morning. Beautiful colors out here this morning. Good morning, folks. I love mornings like this. Overcast. Beautiful green. We're going to get a bite to eat, and then we need to go work in the garden a little bit, and then we'll get back on the tractor. Well, I was going to do some work in the garden, but it's a little too wet to be walking around out there, so we're just going to go ahead and get going in the shop. I was so glad Kelly did the mowing last night, so that frees me up to do other stuff. I was going to do that yesterday. Look at the rose explosion we got going on out here. Beautiful. All of our roses up by the house are flowering out too. The rain started up again. It's got a chance of rain till about noon, then the sun's supposed to come out. So it looks like afternoon we can get some outside painting done, but until then I have some items that need to be painted black so I can kind of set up a little table here underneath inside the garage. We also have some masking to do on the tractor and a little more cleaning. That was quite a chore cleaning all that stuff yesterday. That took all day long. But we got a couple items that we're painting black, including the radiator. I came back out after I left you yesterday. We've got the radiator all cleaned up, ready to paint. And then the generator and the starter, we're going to do black as well. Okay, we've got our parts all wiped down, cleaned up, masked off. We've masked off the information plates on them, which doesn't generally get done with a farmer paint job, but we want to still be able to read that stuff. And then the paint that I have is a Rust-Oleum black paint. It's also a high heat paint in case the stuff gets too warm, which probably won't, but it's also a paint and primer in one, so we can just do it with one shot. Okay, we've got our black parts painted. Probably going to do another coat on the radiator. And then I also took the opportunity to use some cold galvanized on the muffler because it's supposed to be gray. So we'll wait till this stuff dries. It'll take a little bit longer today because of the moisture in the air. But once this dries to the touch, we'll flip these two items over and spray the bottoms. We also need to spray the bottom of this. We don't need to do the bottom of the radiator. These are the radiator core supports here. Got all of our hose clamps, taking a little bath in some mineral spirits to break loose all the oil. We'll brush them down real good. These had some red paint on them because somebody just had haphazardly painted red all over the tractor when they were trying to give it another farmer paint job. But these are going to be black so they match the hoses. Thing we did is we took a file, went over our sealing surface here on the radiator, made sure everything was nice and flat so that radiator will seal down nicely. We got everything masked off, and then we sprayed some high heat black on the exhaust manifold here, and then this will dry to the touch, and then we'll mask it off so when we paint the tractor this will stay black here. But we've got all our electronics masked off. We've got our old plate that was underneath the hydraulic unit masked off, well, cleaned off, excuse me. And then we've flipped our generator and our starter over, got those painted on the other side. We've got the bottoms of our core support brackets painted, and then our radiator hold down brackets are all painted, and we put another coat on the radiator. So we're going to give this stuff a break and let it dry probably for a couple hours. It stopped raining outside, but it's still overcast. The sun's supposed to peek out later, so we're probably going to wait till the sun comes out before we attempt to get some color on this tractor. I started some pulled pork this morning. It looks like it's done. It's falling apart off the bone, so we can shut this off, let it cool down. BLT wrap for lunch, and a little B for Ruby. Hey, Rubes. What's the bacon? I know it's a silly question, huh? All right, lots and lots of prep work later. We've got the tractor outside now. The sun's been in and out. We got a little breeze blowing, which works great for painting. And the ground is nice and wet, so it's not dusty. It's going to be a perfect day for painting. And when we get the sunshine, it wants to make me sing. I remember the old John Denver song, "Sunshine on my tractor makes me happy." Isn't that the way it went? So all I got to do now is get some mineral spirits out. We're going to wipe everything down. It's going to probably take another 45 minutes. And then we'll start shooting some paint. Well, we got everything primed, so that's good. We've got done in plenty of time. We've got some softball to go watch this evening. So real happy the way this turned out. Looks real good. I got just a touch of overspray here on the deck, but when we shoot the red, I'll wipe that down real good and kind of scuff sand it with like a 3M pad, and we'll shoot a little more red on that deck. Won't hurt nothing. So we're gonna wheel this thing into the barn or back into the shop, and then we'll take all those parts in once they're dry to the touch. We'll get this locked up. So we'll probably cut this video off right here. It's probably long enough. We'll come back when we shoot the red paint, and we'll do some other stuff. We've still got the hood to prep, prime, and paint. But good progress. We may make it. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on the farm. We're working on a cub.